Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report. So, do you like when hubris backfires? Well, the Overwatch League has fallen on rough times as of late, with talent leaving, sponsors reconsidering, and franchise managers wondering, quite rightly, why they're even bothering with the entire thing. So, with the league's upcoming season being described as make or break, just what the hell is going on? Why is it going on? And what has Activision-Blizzard actually done wrong here? Now, we do 6 videos a week across reports, deep dives, and news roundups. If you're down for that sort of thing, hit that sub button, and if you'd like to keep that YouTube algorithm happy, then hit us with a like. And with that, let's get into the video. So last week we covered the Overwatch League's big talent exodus and the state of corporate to broadcast staff relations. This week we are back to take a look at the business side of things. Of course, this is via Richard Lewis, an excellent journalist who's been rummaging around the Overwatch League, and thanks to him, we've got all sorts of insider takes on the league's financials. Now, it's very important to establish some context here. The Overwatch League was designed to be a next-level esports enterprise for Activision-Blizzard, something truly massive. Now, the story goes here that Blizzard have long felt aggrieved that the esports popularity boom didn't really bring them in as much profit as they would have liked, and maybe thinking about, say, what League of Legends has been able to do. And because of this, the company has been searching for a better way to capture more of that big, juicy, and very hyped esports market. Well, several different sources told Richard Lewis that when Amazon bought Twitch for $970 million in 2014, Blizz asked Twitch what their cut would be. Supposedly, Blizzard's thinking was that their games had really made Twitch so popular in the first place, and that they were due something. I mean, can you imagine the conversation in Twitch HQ the day that email would have came in? And to be honest, I find this so hard to believe. But the thing is, I do trust Richard Lewis. I trust his sourcing, and I do think this actually happened. It just seems so delusional, but then again, look at who we're dealing with, and you know what? Maybe it's not so much of a surprise. Now, Twitch apparently explained that Blizzard's reward for being on the platform was, the vast amount of viewers that they've actually got, and as somebody who's done Blizzard YouTube, yeah, I mean, it is. Now, this apparently did not sit well with Blizz, so fast forward to the Overwatch era. Now, despite signing an exclusive 2-year broadcasting deal with Twitch, the preseason games for the Overwatch League's inaugural season, they were actually shown exclusively on MLG TV, Blizzard's own platform. Well, Activision Blizzard's. Now, the decision here is a bit of an odd one. Overwatch League was always going to depend on substantial viewer numbers to actually bring in the sponsors. That's what brings in the money. And the preseason would have been a fantastic way to advertise the league and to get some really big numbers. Instead, it seems like no, that was sort of denied from Twitch by going exclusively on MLG TV to sort of show Twitch that Blizzard could live without them. Now, Blizzard actually reportedly informed Twitch that they would pull their games from Twitch if they did not get a good enough deal. So it seems like that these things led to the now rather infamous $90 million Overwatch League broadcasting deal that would see Twitch exclusively broadcast the Overwatch League. Now, before the Overwatch League, Blizzard had long wanted to establish an esports league that was essentially the NFL with keyboards. In 2015, many of us will remember this one, they opted to storm ahead with Heroes of the Storm esports. A bit of a strange move. I mean, League of Legends, Dota 2, they dominated the MOBA scene. Blizzard games are where MOBAs came from, but, well, Blizzard didn't really capture it, and they were of a mindset that they could generate audience interest in HOTS by building this esports presence around it. So, this led to the 2015 Heroes of the Dorm collegiate tournament that was aired on ESPN2, and generally was received rather well as a tournament. Now, it is worth noting here that we found out that ESPN didn't actually make an organic decision to broadcast that tournament. No, Activision Blizzard actually just purchased the airtime for it, so that's how that went down. And of course, we all know that HOTS esports never really took off. Not that Blizzard were willing to admit that, with them continuing to say that things were going well through 2018, only to announce shortly after BlizzCon that they were, well, abandoning all HOTS esports. And this is basically after they told even the teams at that BlizzCon that the esports scene was safe, so they really did backstab people. So Blizzard reportedly decided to go in a different direction with the Overwatch League, instead relying on traditional sports orgs and VC money. Now, these groups had the money to actually last and the media reach to get the league off the ground. And then you've got to combine this with the general esports hype taking off in financial markets. I mean, we remember that massive Morgan Stanley report, and you can kind of see here that Blizzard's overall timing was, well, ideal. The Overwatch League was initially pitched around in November 2016, according to Lewis's report, and it attracted attention for the likes of the New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and Stan Kroenke, I think, the head of the group that owns the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. So basically, big sports dudes. Now, at one stage, it was claimed that the Overwatch League would bring in as much revenue as the WWE, and that League of Legends would struggle against the kind of incredible performance numbers that investors were throwing around for this Overwatch League. Now, these numbers discussed in reports and pitch meetings, of course, they're there trying to get people to invest money into the league. So there's obviously an incentive in the crafting of those numbers. And time has not exactly proved those numbers to be correct. One Overwatch League franchise manager told Richard Lewis that initially the dream was for the Owl to find an NFL owner that had a bottomless pit of cash and could run the thing at a deficit for 5 years. This reportedly did not work out, and another franchise manager confirmed that, quote, almost every Overwatch League team has been operating in the red. What a surprise. The team supposedly have massive operating costs with comparatively little offsetting income. They've got to account for paying their players, their staff, their accommodation, food, and travel. One manager actually stated that an Overwatch League roster costs an average of $1 million a year to maintain, and that is before you factor in food, housing, coaching, and all of the support needed for a team. And then add on to that, well, Season 3's home and away format could actually make some of those costs increase. And you've got to bear in mind here that the franchise fee for Season 1 was $20 million, raising to an estimated $50 million for Season 2. That's an awful lot of upfront money to, not be seeing significant returns. Now, 8 new teams joined the Overwatch League roster for Season 2 with that reported, $50 million buy-in, but no new expansion teams are coming for Season 3. Now, is this indicative of a lack of expansion, just not an appeal for new teams to actually come in? Do we reckon that Activision-Blizzard were maybe stupid enough to follow their 2.5 times pricing scheme, maybe make the Season 3 expansion buy-in $125 million? Yeah, almost certainly not for the latter, but yeah, I imagine so with the former. It does not look like a hot proposition. So, the costs here are vast, but the plan was for, investment groups to be absorbing these costs in the beginning before, of course, balancing that out with the revenue from the sponsorships, merchandising, broadcasting rights. And that really hasn't happened that much. As one franchise manager put it, quote, the league is making most of the money and the teams are getting screwed. Now, the Overwatch League dictates which sponsorships the teams can actually have, and those sponsorships, of course, are not allowed to clash with any official league sponsors. Now, the current partnership with Coca-Cola is another sticking point for many of the league insiders. And this is, it's kind of a funny one. There's a bit of insider stuff here. Activision-Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick sits on the board of directors for Coca-Cola. So, the Overwatch League deal for Coca-Cola is seen as really little more than an attempt to make the league seem a bit more successful than it is, along with some, we imagine, virtually free advertising for Coca-Cola. Further to this, ActiBliz Esports Chief Revenue Officer Brandon Snow refused to disclose the terms of that deal, which obviously does not allay anyone's suspicions. Now, the Owl does have plenty of sponsors: Toyota, HP Omen, Intel, and the Sour Patch Kids. I went there and I was just having Sour Patch Kids packets basically thrown at me by people. It was a bit weird. Now, some of these are reportedly up to 10 mil in value, but there's a lot of sponsors that are not yet renewed for Season 3, including HP and Intel, and losing them would be a massive blow to the Overwatch League franchises moving into the new season format. Of course, though, it gets worse because merchandising has been very strange. When the league first launched, the rule was that each team shared revenue with the league for its merch, but that ended up changing. Now, one manager actually credits Robert Kraft getting pissed off that Boston Uprising jerseys weren't selling, so the league ended up calling a meeting and then the rules were changed. Now the way that it works is that the league does get half of all merchandising revenue, but the other half is then divided equally between the 20 franchises, which sort of spreads things around. Now, it used to be then, of course, that, if a team had a strong brand, it would sell loads of shirts and would do pretty well, but now those wins are absorbed by the other teams. This is typically not how esports merchandising works, but it is very much the norm in the NFL and the NBA. Now, let's move on to that Twitch deal. So, at the time, this $90 million over 2-year agreement was viewed as an unprecedented move. Yes, it was, but over time it has become known as an expensive mistake, with one Twitch insider telling Richard Lewis that internally that deal is referred to as the worst in the company's history, which is hardly surprising, and reportedly action has been taken within Twitch to make sure that a deal like that does not happen again, and well, that's pretty much a quote. A bit crazy, isn't it? Activision-Blizzard do seem confident, though, in being able to secure a similar deal for the Overwatch League going forward, but many of Lewis's sources have actually said that that will only be possible if the new Call of Duty League is also included in that exclusivity deal. Now, the COD League has got its own problems. More on that next week. It's a developing story. It's one we've been, well, paying a close eye to for the last while, but we just want a little bit more detail before we actually report on it. But suffice to say, another big league in a bit of a strange position. Anyway, at any rate, a significant broadcast deal is going to need to come in soon. I mean, like, sponsorships are up in the air. The finances seem really quite rocky. One franchise manager reiterated the importance of these deals, stating that teams are pretty much sitting in limbo as they go into the third season, and that's a quote. Costs are already high, and they're only going to increase with the new travel-heavy season. So if media deals and sponsorships don't appear, then, well, this manager says that the teams will be in, quote, terrible shape. And that is not a good thing to hear for the league. And it's not just getting deals that's important. They will need to be of a significant value. Of course, the way that the Overwatch League's revenue split works is that 50% of it all goes to Activision-Blizzard, and then the remaining 50% is divided equally amongst the different franchises. This does also include things like sponsorship revenue, the ticketing for events, advertising, merchandising, and, other stuff. Now, the Twitch deal was also the same. $45 million for ActiBliz and $45 million to inject a bit of money into the teams. And it seems quite obvious that the teams are in a position where they do need that money, especially if they're already operating in the red. Now, in response to this, the league have stated that, quote, new and extended sponsorships are coming, and, well, the teams obviously will be hoping that these are coming and that they are rather sizable. I mean, a $5 million deal, does it really do that much when it's then halved and then split in 20 ways? Yeah, I don't really think so, and I suppose no wonder those London Spitfire homestand tickets are so darn expensive. And as you can see here, it's basically that the fundamentals of this don't really work, right? They've lost a bunch of talent, and from my own sources, I can tell you they did not pay that talent enough money to actually keep them there. It was not a competitive rate for the industry. What Blizzard essentially wanted to do here, from my own read, is to create the esports NFL. It seems obvious. The thing is, though, the NFL was established 99 years ago, and there's a lot of culture there. I mean, fast growth can happen, but reaching cultural institution status and then operating with that business model, I mean, getting that so quickly seems optimistic. Plus, Overwatch is open to so many different risks that the NFL isn't. First of all, viewership will fluctuate with the game's popularity. There are many other games that rise up to scale, and they're competing for the same players and the same watch time. There's also meta changes and balance changes. Now, look, I do not know much about the actual, playing of American football, but, I imagine its meta does change over time. But that said, not like Overwatch, and I doubt they're going to have, be having the GOATs meta of the NFL. Of course, for Overwatch, GOATs happened in Season 2, and it basically killed it. That is something that is just not a factor for the NFL. And yes, there are, competing physical sports, but really not as much, and I think not in an industry that is growing as fast as gaming is. And really with gaming, with all of that growth, that comes a lot of companies hedging their bets, a lot of big financial institutions pumping things full of money. And that does mean that in gaming, it's more of a knife edge. On the internet, things are quick, you can be very relevant at one point and be a lot less relevant later on. I mean, I think about my personal favorite, StarCraft 2. It seemed king of the world, and then it did slide in relevance as the likes of League of Legends really just rose up massively. And I think that's the thing with Blizzard. They took a lot of old business models, a lot of learnings from old business models, and it seemed like they tried to apply that to something new. And I'm sure they understood many of the fundamentals, but clearly there are things they did not understand because it is so very obvious that the basic setup of the Overwatch League isn't really working out that well for them. Of course, though, they're pretty hubristic. I think we know that thus far. And if you look at the Call of Duty League, well, they initially tried to set it up with a very Overwatch League-like structure. structure. And that led to a lot of pissed off players, a lot of pissed off viewers, and I imagine behind the scenes, a lot of esports professionals not being particularly thrilled. Now, they did make some changes in that league to have it a bit more esports friendly, but still, that is another league with big franchise buy-ins that I think quite obviously is going to end up facing similar struggles to the NFL. I mean, it also could be that the Call of Duty people are maybe a bit more used to an NFL-like format, and maybe it will map on a little bit better there than, say, something like Overwatch, which is, you know, I mean, I guess just a bit more internet-y, if you get my drift, and it's like its theme and like a lot of its players. But still, it seems like a massive mess. And that's not even going into things like, say, viewership. I mean, viewership, we've heard about them using wiki embeds to try to pump that. And, you know, like counting in repeat broadcasts and stuff like that, and their numbers. And their numbers, obviously, just they don't compete to a lot of other esports. It seems like this is just trying to pump money into something with a big hope that, you know, if they're able to capture, you know, the market, to actually break out and achieve that dominant status, that they will be like the NFL. But I think the reality here is they're not going to be like the NFL. They're not going to be this dominant force in esports because fundamentally they've just messed, I mean, pretty much everything up. And I mean, that's not even covering the other things that they've messed up. I mean, there was the situation when Overwatch was actually coming out. There's the Korean organization doing far better grassroots tournaments, and Blizzard pretty much killed that. There has been no grassroots Overwatch scene because the entire plan from day one has been to make it be this big corporate entity, which I think just doesn't resonate with players as much. And I mean, I think we're like obviously seeing that. So that's it for today's video. A lot of my thoughts there at the end. The bulk of the actual, you know, reporting, the hard work via Richard Lewis. His article will be down in the sources below. Thank you very much for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.